Hello and welcome to Hops and Bros. This week,
we're talking about the sweetest desserts of beers. Of beer? Pastry stouts.
For an open window on the crabby world, Max and Chris from Ups and Brew. Welcome to Hops and Bros. Yeah.
Well, this week, pastry stouts. It's honestly, I didn't know it was a thing until Chris brought it up. Chris, what exactly is this? Where does it come from? Why would someone want to mix a cake and a beer?
Okay, first off, we discovered it's not really putting a cake in a beer, but where do I put that out, or where did I pull this off? It's mostly from Twitter, from an account called Don't Drink Beer, and the guy is fantastic. He has a great humor and also posts a lot of funny memes around beer. And
but Chris, he's telling you blatantly with his name that you shouldn't be drinking beer. You don't listen to him, do you?
No, but right now I'm not drinking beer. I'm off drinking alcohol for 2 days. I'm trying this out. So I'm at 2 days with no alcohol.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
This is news to me, Chris.
I know.
I've not had alcohol for the last... I don't want to say. I'm going to keep it to myself, that information. But 2 days. Bravo, Chris.
I know. I'm impressed. I'm just trying this out. Trying to take a few days off of alcohol every single week. Just so I can drink better beers along the way. Drink less, drink better. But again, back to the Twitter thing, memes all around pastry stouts. And I'm like, what the hell is a pastry stout? So let's do pastry stout this week. And mostly what we discovered is that we already probably covered a beer that's fit into the pastry stout category, which means a big, bold, sticky, sweet stout. Could be barrel aged.
Which beer did we do?
Mostly imperial stouts. It's something that it's known to be used into pastry stouts, but one I can really think about is Omnipolo with the purple can and the kind of like green swirl on it. I think it's the name is Graham Cracker Caramel Chocolate Imperial Stout, something like that. Clocking in at
I believe so. Omnipolo is renowned for doing beers that do not taste like beer. A quote from the brewer, I believe, on pastry stouts was that he wanted to fulfill his childhood dream of being a pastry chef.
Exactly.
Which I think is interesting because a lot of people who join the brewing industry have other careers, or have had other ideas of careers, and my light just went off. But anyways, Chris, take it out.
That's all right. So mostly, yes, Omnipolo is kind of like the renaissance of pastry stouts, if I can state it that way, because it literally originated back in 1994. Kind of. It's still a nebulous way to get the story right for imperial stouts, or not imperial stout, but
Chris,
pastry
stouts. There was
no
craft beer in '94. What are you talking about?
Oh yes, it was. So back in the United States, Sam Adams and Goose Islands were two big craft breweries popping up, and Sam Adams released a triple buck aged in oak barrels. People were blown away. They were like, it tastes like port, it tastes like a desert wine. Taste it, it's amazing, it's good. Which rang a bell to Goose Island head brewer to get his hands on originally Jack Daniel's whiskey barrels to age his first ever imperial stouts. This is where Bourbon County Stout happened. One of the most hyped up beers of the past decade, and it's still, to this date, a really, really popular beer, even though Goose Island is now owned by AB InBev. So it really kind of like took off the whole industry into brewing a little bit more sweeter beers, dark, bold, and sticky.
Well, I guess today we think of counterculture beer as being, you know, those overly hopped IPAs and now Brett's and sours and stuff like that to try to stick it to the big guys who are brewing those light lagers and those ales. But back in the day, brewing a stout or brewing in English brown or red or beers like that was very counterculture. So I'm not surprised that Goose Island, while they were still independent, would have had that kind of idea. idea, that kind of stroke of genius to go counterculture by brewing a heavy stout.
Yeah.
A very sweet heavy stout, mind you.
Very, 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 very sweet. And for what I can remember, like my first craft beers from Quebec were sweet stouts, like really sweet stouts, double barrel age, and also like ABV with like 8, 10, 12%. I was just driving for those beers.
I guess is one of the big example, right? It's one of those sweeter, heavy stouts that really redefine craft beer in Quebec.
But it's still well balanced. You know, those beers were yes sweet, they were strong, but for me, they were always a good sign of balance. Perfectly balanced beers, even though the Bourbon County Stouts we added, I think last year, with Bruno, the beer smuggler, and seriously, I was blown away. It's literally what I had in mind when I was thinking about the Bourbon County Stout. It's sticky, pours nice, a lot of sweetness, but also it's balanced. But from what I heard about the pastry stouts, balance is not really key.
No, in fact, it's the complete opposite. I've read a couple different ways, and I'm going to go into how to brew these, because I think it's still very interesting. There's a couple different mindsets or train of thought that comes into brewing a beer like that. Before I get into it, first off, BJCP does not have a recognized style. Just like the NEIPA, it doesn't recognize this as an official style, because it's not. I mean, it hasn't had this life cycle where you can consider it an actual judge-worthy beer for now. It's an interesting beer. Maybe one day it's going to be, although it's one of those beers that's very marginal, even for the craft beer industry. So what I've heard different ways of how people brew it. The most interesting way that I've seen, again, we're thinking barrel aging. Barrel aging is also very key in this beer. Yeah. So a brewery, I forget the name, but anyways, they brewed two different beers. They brewed an imperial stout that they put in barrels, and then they brewed a fresher, more simple milk stout that they added cocoa nibs and coconut, roasted coconut bits to it to make it sweeter, and then they blended the two together. So we're looking at kind of the same concept that British bitters and British milds had, where you had the two vessels, you had the old beer and the new beer, to try to blend together and have your perfect balance there. So that's one way. If you go the omnipolo route, you're just putting a bunch of caramel in there, putting a bunch of cocoa nibs, some vanilla, some anything sweet that's not necessarily Reinheitsgebot compliant. A lot of different ways to brew this, and I don't think there's a right answer or wrong answer. It's the idea of what you want to do with it that becomes important in this case.
Yeah, okay. Quick question, Max. Can a brewer just add pastries to this sweet beer?
I mean, yeah. Your pastries are going to have a lot of sugar. They're probably going to have some residual starch to them. So, I mean, you could use it in your boil or even in your mash if you were feeling saucy. I would avoid dry hopping with it. But yeah, you would add a bunch of fermentable sugars, although most of the sugars that are going to be in that cake are going to be sucrose, and your yeast still has to transform sucrose into glucose to be able to digest it and create your alcohol and your CO2. Okay. Yeah, man, why not add pastry to your boil? Try it out, see what happens. I'm perfectly fine with trying different things with beer. Is it going to add the effect you wanted? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to add a lot of residual sugars. I think you're better off adding lactose to your fermenter if that's what you're looking for. But if you're looking for the marketing aspect in brewing a beer like that, fuck yeah, man. Put it in the boil, have a whole... Yeah, it looks awesome. Take a bunch of pictures, take some videos, and make it so that it becomes a thing about your beer. I think it's the way you should approach most things when it comes to craft beer. People are very interested as to how things work. I mean, we've seen it with the Brut IPA. Adding enzymes to your mash is not new. The big guys have been doing it for years, but it's one of the first times you see it done in the craft beer industry, and done in a way that it's not, they're not trying to be the big guys, they're trying to utilize the tools they have to create something unique with it.
Yeah, something flavorful, something that pushes the boundaries just to the next level, again, using original ingredients to create something totally new in the end.
Exactly. I mean, be creative. Don't stop yourself. That's how we get all those cool new styles. A lot of people weren't sure about the milkshake IPAs. I'm still not sure about the milkshake IPAs. I don't want to get into it. But I think there is a good thing with experimenting. I'm a big fan of New England style IPAs. I don't think you need more sweetness to them. But, you know, do it or don't. I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess I'm just trying to bring it back up, the whole, like, lacto thing.
I know. We should just stop talking about it.
Yeah.
It's done now. It's all right. We fought the fight that we had to fight, and now...
But we're still fighting in some ways. It's not like... And it's not really a fight. Again, I just spent this whole video telling you to do whatever the fuck you want to do. So just do it. Stop bothering me.
Oh, damn. Whatever you do, just make great beer. I think that's what the point is about.
So if you like the video, please like, subscribe, share, and they don't all end like this. Usually we're a little happier by the end. Now I'm just disappointed.
Oh, come on. All right. So just before we leave you guys, let us know what's your favorite pastry stout out there, and should we try to get more on the show?
Just your favorite pastry. I'm a big fan of pastry.
Oh yeah, let's do this. Yeah.
I could go for a nice cannoli or an eclair.
Or just donuts.
I like pastry. Donuts are pretty good. Our friends at Tubang might be able to hook us up someday, I hope. I'd love to brew a beer like we just said and inspire myself with their donuts. Anyways.
I think we could.
Pat?
I think
see
we
you
could.
later, man. Okay, let's see.
Cheers.